Here we go. Is it on air yet? Everybody, can you hear and see me? Thank you, Ethan, for chiming in. Everybody else hearing and seeing everything okay? Yay, hopefully. All right. I just put the link to my Google Hangouts in the group chat that I have everybody else in, so we should be together shortly, if y'all don't mind. So how's everybody doing in the live chat? What's going on? How's everybody's Friday? Or if you happen to be in Australia, Saturday. Good stuff. All right.
Hello.
Yeah. How's it going?
Not bad, thank you. Can you hear me? Is everything okay?
I can hear you, live chat. Can everybody hear Lloyd? Looks like it, I think.
It's gone a bit quiet. Hang on a minute. Let's see what I can do. Save, yeah.
Okay, looks like everybody can hear everything, so that's good.
I can hear you, but I can't hear not Joe Witness.
I just jumped in. Haven't said anything yet.
There we are.
You couldn't hear him because he didn't say anything yet.
That explains it.
Well, glad that's working.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yay.
All right, let's see. Okay, good. Oh, this is going to be so fun. Yay. All right, now we're just waiting for Owen. Let's see. So, how's everybody's day going so far? I know that Nacho literally just woke up, so.
Hey.
Hey. Yeah. All right, can everybody hear Owen? Okay.
I hear
yeah.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Everything is good to go. Excellent. Awesome. All right. Well, and it's 5 o'clock, so perfect timing. Yay, everybody's together. All right. So, welcome one and all to the first ever, maybe, I don't know, somebody else could have done this, but as far as I know, it's the first ever governing body unofficial roast session. Yay.
Sorry, I thought it was going to be an official roast.
Well, I couldn't get anybody to officiate it. So.
Oh, right, okay. Never mind. Well, we'll do our best. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming on. I was so excited to have all of you guys because I think that not only, obviously, are you all knowledgeable about, you know, the crazy shenanigans of the governing body and all the stuff that they've said and done and gotten up to, but I feel like you guys can be funny when you put your minds to it.
we do our best, but allow me to just congratulate you on 500 subs. I can remember very well how much time it took to get to that milestone, and you've done it very quickly. So fantastic growth, wondrous expansion now taking place and all that. So congratulations.
Oh. Yes, it's practically prophetic growth. I would say let's not go there, but that's what this whole thing is about, isn't it? So
we're going to end up being triggered at some point.
Yeah.
And triggering the audience.
Yeah. But we all kind of came here. I think that this will be very cathartic for all of us. Like, we're going to talk about all the horrible stuff and how much we hate it. But at the same time, we get to poke fun at them. It'll be fun. You know, I know that at least I know that when we're trying to talk about, you know, very seriously about the problems with Jehovah's Witness doctrine and stuff like that, we're kind of trying to go about it logically, reasonably, trying not to use ad hominem attacks because obviously, you know, they say that we're mentally diseased and all that. I tried to get mentally diseased on this, by the way, if in case anybody was wondering where he is. And at first he didn't want to, and then he changed his mind, but then he realized that he was already going to be busy during the time we were going to film it. So, oh well.
It's disappointing. Well, another one of these days we'll get in one with him, right?
Mm-hmm. One of these days. But yeah, I think that this will be fun, mostly just because this is the sole purpose of this is to poke fun and to make fun of. We can talk about stuff seriously as well, of course, but the goal is to ridicule.
Well, cults just hate to be laughed at, don't they? They take themselves very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
So we take away some of Watchtower's power and the governing body's power by absolutely refusing to do that. So I'm down with that completely.
Oh my God, I just 100%. Noticed your shirt, by the way. Perfect one for
that. I actually specifically chose this shirt for the theme. So this is because I'm not very good at writing jokes. I prefer to kind of come up with them on the cuff. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Question for you, actually. Don't you sell those on Teespring or something? I was looking through your
That's
Teespring
a very good question and one that we haven't rehearsed. So yes, if you do want to head over to my Teespring store, I do sell this design with a number of other ones. So yeah.
I saw somebody on Teespring the other day, just some random person had a yellow shirt that said "My Book of Horror Stories" or something. I thought that was a good so one. Clever. Yeah. Oh man! And then I think you've got one that's like the Proclaimers book, kind of.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, Proclaimers of Global Genocide. Yeah.
Yes,
that's selling
really
well.
Good. Yeah. I wish that I'd come up with some of those. I just couldn't.
Nacha, do you have merch now? I swore that I just saw a merch announcement from you.
Yeah, I do. I did. I was told that I should make some merch, so I did. And then I made some really bad ads for it because I was bored.
Well, it's the badness of the ads that make people want to buy them because it's entertaining to watch them because they're so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that was my plan.
Right. I'm the only one without merch. I don't know what I would do, but you know, it's
got to come up with something good.
What did you say? Sorry.
I said you got to come up with something good.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with something. Eventually, I'll say something funny enough to put on a t-shirt.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to start off our roast with this. My longtime subscriber, who is in the live chat right now, Ethan Spencer, you're the man. You're also my very first patron, so I thought that I owed it to him. He wrote some very funny, niche ex-Jehovah's Witness humor stand-up. And he has a bit in there about the governing body, and I wanted to read it off because I thought it was really funny. I hope that I can do the delivery justice. Okay. It starts off with the newest lawsuit to hit Watchtower comes from Sanofi and Aventis, the makers of Ambien. A direct quote from the lawsuit reads, "Due to his overwhelmingly soporific speeches, Samuel Hurd is actually creating substantial losses in our stock due to customers listening to his JW broadcasts instead of taking our product."
That's funny. That's pretty good.
He's great, Ethan. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Some other companies that side with Watchtower include Macallan. A public statement from the company has stated that not only do they appreciate the free publicity from Mr. Morris's promotion of their product, they'll be using profits to make him a tracksuit very similar to those worn by NASCAR racers. They have requested his measurements, appeasing Watchtower by assuring them the pants will be a very loose fit.
Oh, Tony Morris is just a walking joke, I think, 24/7. I would give anything to just be able to follow him around for like a day or maybe even a week and just observe his everyday life, because, again, he's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. I remember I was watching some of your rebuttals to his talks, and he was just so incoherent. Like, the last time I heard a talk given that was that incoherent was a wedding talk for a couple that wanted a divorce a week afterwards. Like, it was a crazy talk, and everybody in the audience was like, ugh, but you can do that for just some random old guy in your congregation. Everybody sitting in front of Tony's like,
And we now know why he's so incoherent, or has been so incoherent. It's because he's hammered most of the time. And you actually go back and look at some of the recordings and notice that in some talks he's more coherent than in others, and slurs his speech more and less depending on which talk it is. And of course, now that makes total sense in the context of Bottlegate.
You know what's really sad is I was talking to my mom like forever ago, like years ago at this point, about Tony Morris. And I was like talking about some of the crazier things he said and done. And, you know, how what was it? Like, the fashion industry is run by homosexuals and all this other stuff that he said. And she starts agreeing with the dude. And she's like, oh, well, you know, it is. And I was like, oh, my God, this is crazy. Apparently, he is her favorite governing body member because he was in Vietnam and she was in the war around that time, too, even though she didn't go. But yeah, really crazy.
Wow.
I used to think of Tony Morris as like the governing body member that really came down hard with the facts and he just wasn't playing around. Yeah. But then looking back at some of the things he said, he just was really condescending and rude. Like,
yeah,
just extremely condescending
and very blunt too. Like, he'd talk about, you guys remember that bit where he's talking about like what Armageddon's going to be like, and you think it's scary to see an animal hit on the side of the road or something like that. Like, oh my God, were there children in the room for that? That's like way over the top.
I don't mind bluntness, and I don't mind people telling it like it is. I think we all appreciate honesty. But the problem with Tony Morris is that he speaks total nonsense.
Right.
And what he says comes from a very narrow-minded, bigoted, narcissistic viewpoint, where basically anyone who doesn't agree with him deserves to die. And by the way, he relishes the opportunity to dispense some of the slaughter, according to the governing body teachings. Yeah.
Dude's got issues.
Yeah.
Major issues. I think that we could do a whole live stream talking shit about Tony Morris, but let's not make it just about Tony Morris.
No.
There's other weirdos. We'll get back to him eventually, I'm sure.
How many governing body members are there? There are 7, right? I think 8. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't name all of them, but I can name most of them, I think.
Tony Morris, David Splane, Stephen Lett, Kenneth Cook, Samuel Hurd, Jeffrey Jackson,
Mark Sanderson.
I'm sorry,
Mark Sanderson, and who's the other one? Who have I left out? There's always one.
5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's one left.
Impressive or depressing that you can do that.
Garrett Loesch.
Yeah, that's it, Loesch. Yeah. We got there in the end. It didn't take long, but yeah, those are the governing body members.
Yeah.
What was not Jehovah's Witness? Did you say something?
Oh yeah, I was just like, that's either, I can't tell if it's depressing or impressive that you can do that off the top of your head.
Yeah, these are kind of Jedi activist powers that I'm wielding at the moment. And it's actually interesting that when I was a JW, I couldn't do that. I'm probably speaking the same for you guys as well. When we were believing JWs, we could maybe name 1 or 2, at a push. I can remember visiting Brooklyn Bethel when I was, I think, 21 or 22, and being introduced to a governing body member, and I think it was Gerrit Loesch, I vaguely recall, but I had to be introduced to him. I didn't know who he was. And it's only when he said, oh, by the way, he's on the governing body, that I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But it's interesting how only when you kind of involve yourself in the activism does it become more important to know who they are. But also these guys are putting themselves front center more and more due to JW broadcasting and the whole focus on video. So they're really in people's faces more nowadays.
Yeah, I think when I was Jehovah's Witness, they weren't really publicizing who the members were. I didn't know even a single one of them until I left, because then they really started. Like, JW Broadcasting didn't exist until after I left. I left in like 2000, really kind of stopped going to meetings and stuff about 2008 or so. So, yeah. I'm kind of dated, actually. Like, I dated myself out of the religion. I haven't been it in 10 years, you know?
That's not that bad. I got at least 15 plus years since I was in it. So, like, the whole broadcasting thing, I'm learning all of that just in the last year or so.
Yeah.
For those of you that
I was still walking around with magazines and stuff.
Yep.
For you guys that have been out for so long, what was it like for you to hear about all this JW broadcasting stuff and the governing body just, you know, giving talks and showing their faces and just like being super public about themselves?
It literally changed, like that sort of thing. Seeing how much the religion has changed since I was in it is literally what made me realize that they're all full of shit. Because up until then, I'd left the religion, but I still believed. Like, I still held on to the faith. I just didn't think I was good enough to be a witness. Whereas then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, they're all full of shit, and they're all, you know, most of the things they do is pretty fucking awful. So changed my opinion pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think that I watch how my mom reacted, because for like a while she maintained some basic relationship with me up until a few years ago. And she was like all about the new light and had a positive spin on all the changes, and Jehovah's revealing so much and all this other junk. But from the outside, you can see that it's bullshit. Like he was saying, like you can see that it's just completely fabricated, and they're kind of going from the seat of their tight pants or whatever. And it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, like I said, I've been out for like since I was about 18, and my 30th birthday is in like 3 weeks. Gonna sit in a dark room and cry and munch on things, like probably ice cream or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, that makes me feel so old. I'm approaching my 40th birthday, and you're not even 30. Oh, yeah. Good grief.
I know. Yeah. Well, we're all getting old. We're all getting there, and it sucks. It's not fun.
I'm not getting old. I have good genes. I won't age.
Right. Well, I've been waiting. I've been holding this joke. I said it last year. I don't know if anyone's going to remember it or not, but I've been holding this joke until a video releases around my 30th birthday. I've been saying for years that I have one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel now. Basically, it's like, after, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but when you're filling out like internet forms or whatever, just like tax forms and stuff, they list age ranges. Like, are you 13 to 17, 18 to 25? And then if you notice, the next age range is 26 to dead. Like, they just stop caring about you at that point. Anybody else notice that? It's weird.
I never noticed because I didn't have to go past the 18 to 25.
We'll give it time. Everyone stops caring about you after you pass 25. So.
Oh, don't say that. We care about
you. Still care about you, Owen.
Okay. Appreciate that, guys.
We all care.
Group hug.
Okay.
Virtual group hug. Everybody get in.
That's funny.
So I have, and this is an observation that I actually made a long time ago while I was still a witness. And it's going to sound silly, but after I got out, especially, you know, one of the ways that I hear the governing body described the most often is those 8 old guys up in New York that control Jehovah's Witnesses' lives. If not for Sam Hurd, it would just be, oh, those 8 old white guys up in New York. But he's just there to be the token black guy. He's probably the guy that gives all of his white friends the N-word pass because he thinks it's funny and he's one with the group and it's cool. That is something that even when I was Jehovah's Witness that I thought was just like, yeah, we've got the governing body and their token black member, you know.
That's interesting. I noticed though they don't have a token woman up there, of course. They would never have a token woman up there, but yeah, that's an interesting observation. Hadn't really thought about it.
I heard an interesting. Sorry.
I was just a quick one. I've never really thought about it. Are they all Americans? Like, is there any other nationality that gets?
They're all in America, but there aren't others.
I was going to say that I heard an interesting talk once where I forget who it was. Was it? I think it might actually have been Garrett Loesch who was, or was it David Splain? One of them was describing the different nationalities and making a point of saying that, oh, David Splain's from Canada, Garrett Loesch is from Austria, Jeffrey Jackson's from Australia, as though to make out, oh, it's just this wonderfully diverse group of mostly white men. And again, you have Sam Hurd there. And I can imagine when he was appointed to the governing body, they must have kind of been passing each other on the back and thinking, well, there's a big box that we've ticked, you know, of diversity by having one non-white person on the governing body. And you would think, with it being a global organization spanning so many different races and countries, and it pushes that fact in our faces at every opportunity. You'd think there'd be at least one Asian on the governing body, or
where the majority of the world's population are.
Indeed, or like a Latino on the governing body. It's bizarre to think that, again, it's such a narrow demographic is represented on the 8 members.
I'm fascinated by their hierarchy. Kink. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said God's got a particular kink.
Yeah,
he does have a particular kink, actually, in general, when it comes to survivors of Armageddon, because as I'm frequently pointing out on my channel, if you happen to, you know, be born in most of Asia or the Middle East or North Africa, you're basically screwed, because all of those areas fall under the region that's kind of in the quote-unquote other lands that are under ban. And the ratio there for encountering a witness, even some countries that are listed on the worldwide report, such as Bangladesh, statistically speaking, you've got no chance of meeting a Jehovah's Witness. So Jehovah is very much partial anyway, but he's especially partial when it comes to choosing governing body members.
I don't know. It's like, I wonder... I wish I knew more about how their hierarchy works. I mean, I know, of course, the basics of it and everything, but how do they pick governing body members? I imagine it's got to be like a political type of thing, right? Like whoever you're really good friends with, because the governing body members, when it all comes down to it, are no different than anointed people actually in the religion. Like there's nothing extra special about them, right? They're just anointed.
Well, I would imagine that a major hurdle is getting onto the helpers. So they've got dozens of helpers who, together with the governing body members, make up the governing body committees. So there's 6 committees dealing with various aspects of the organization. And once you are a governing body helper, and bear in mind, helpers also get to host the JW broadcasting episodes, or at least some of them do. Then you're in with a real shot. But even then, it's not a slam dunk, because you've also got to be brave enough to say that you're one of the anointed. And not all helpers are able to do that. So if you're a governing body helper and you're brave enough to say that you're one of the anointed, or you're like a substitute for a lapsed anointed, which, you know, depending on how you read the theology, is kind of what you have to believe. Yeah, then you're in with a chance, but it's even then it's clearly not. It's clearly a very exclusive club to get into the governing body.
I'd love to know more about that culture, like how it, what it's like to be a helper and in there with the governing body members, and what it's like to declare that you're anointed up, in Bethel and stuff. I remember when I was little, I was in a congregation in the Northeast because I lived in Connecticut, and I was at the memorial one time, and I remember one of the brothers in the congregation quickly took a bite of the bread and drank the wine, and everyone gasped. They're like, oh, he's anointed. Oh my God, he's declaring it. Everyone was so happy. It was so crazy. Anyway, I don't know. It's just really crazy.
Yeah. That's a coming out party that people will celebrate in the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. Have you ever seen somebody partake of the stuff, Lloyd?
Not personally, no. Although one of the guys on my MTS class started partaking. He's actually the reason why my wife and I met, because he was a member of my class from Croatia, and it was due to visiting his congregation on our reunion that I met my wife and ended up moving to Croatia. But not long after leaving MTS, he started partaking of the emblems and claiming that he was one of the anointed. But he's actually so delusional that he very quickly ended up turning apostate, but not apostate in a good way, apostate in a, I'm going to heaven and this religion doesn't recognize my beliefs, so I'm going to join the Bible students and become a Russellite. So he ended up becoming a Russellite, and last I checked, he's not even with them anymore, or maybe he is. I think he actually does have a YouTube channel where he espouses in Croatian the teachings of Charles Taze Russell. So he's a bit crazy.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. I would love to get a glimpse into that dude's head. Like what, what? How did that progress? Right?
Oh, he's
how
crazy.
Did that progress? It's so crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to bore you, but he's quite a character.
Yeah,
that's crazy shit. I can't even. I knew anointed people, but I never saw anybody partake as far as I can remember. And just that whole culture is just fascinating. I can't even imagine what kind of a boys club it is. Like, obviously it is, because women can't take leadership roles, but just like whose ass do you have to kiss? And like what kind of stuff are they even looking for? What does it feel like? What do they think is spirit anointing? What do they think that is? What sensation or thought leads them to legitimately believing that? And you know what? Since we're talking about legitimate belief, what do you guys think? Do you think that all or some of the governing body members are not, in fact, completely delusional, but are, in fact, in on it and purposely, conning people?
There's got to at least be some of them.
What do you think, Lloyd? I have a little bit of an opinion on this, which is actually informed on your opinion, but what are your thoughts on it?
I think, it's very, very tempting to think that maybe a majority even of the governing body are cynical, and they kind of sit at their Wednesday morning meetings kind of twiddling their thumbs thinking, what's the optimum way of screwing over millions of people? I don't think that they are that cynical, but the fact remains that they have a front row seat on the very worst of the organization, and they know things about the organization that will never see the light of day. And we think that what we know about the organization is bad. If we could get a glimpse into what they know, it would just take things to a whole new level of evil, as far as I'm concerned. So they get a front row seat to how evil the organization is, and yet they still manage to maintain their delusion and feel this is something that they need to perpetuate. So when I say that they are mostly deluded, that doesn't mean they're not evil, because some of the most deluded people in history have been evil and done evil things. I just think that it's a nuanced situation where the human mind is so complicated that you can both be genuine and also cynical. So it's possible that in some areas they're very cynical and they kind of know at some level that it's BS, but while at the same time entertaining a notion that there's something special about them in particular and they have a role to play in God's one and only true organization. So I think the scary thing is that it's actually quite complicated. But I agree with Not Joe Witness that probably there's one or two characters for whom it is more cynical than delusional.
Yeah, I think that Ray Franz said in his book Crisis of Conscience that he thought that there may be a few up there in the higher ranks who are, you know, who know what they're doing and who are just doing it because, but the majority he thought were genuine and really believed their own BS and were delusional, like you said. And so I side with him on that. I think the majority of them genuinely believe their own BS, genuinely think it's true, and are just nutcases, basically.
Yeah, which is scary to ponder, but it kind of makes sense. And who better to comment on it than Ray Franz? I think he used the phrase "victims of victims," which sums it up quite well.
Yeah. Another thing about the governing body is, oh shoot, I lost where I was going with that. It just slipped right out of my head. I was going to say, Jehovah's Witnesses follow, like, all right, so Stephen Hassan's bite model outlines a number of points that many cults just hit perfectly. Like, it's uncanny. And looking at how Jehovah's Witnesses are controlling people through thought-stopping techniques and controlling this behavior or that behavior through a system of rewards and punishments and things like that, it could lead you to think they must know what they're doing. They must. But I just think it's a pattern that emerges. It's like an emergent property of religions a lot of the time, unless it's actively fought against, like in the case of some super liberal, chill Methodist churches who don't hate anybody for anything.
When you stand back and look at the organization, it almost has the properties of a person in how evil and sophisticated and conniving the whole thing is. And, you know, the bite model helps us to draw parallels with other groups that have the same properties. But I think the very fact that other groups with completely different theologies and belief systems can arrive at the same properties gives us a clue as to how these kind of characteristics and attributes can kind of accumulate. It's because if you are an organization that wants to control people, you're going to just happen upon the best way of doing that one way or the other, given enough time, and in this case decades. We see it in nature. It's called convergent evolution, where two completely different species can end up having the same attributes. Hummingbirds and hawk moths are a good example. They both have the same method of getting nectar from flowers. So yeah, I think we see the same thing with cults.
It's really, really fascinating. That's a really good point.
I was going to say a similar point about how you can kind of see it evolving into the cult that it is over time. Like, it started out with a few fanatics with no crazy rules, that they just had a very peculiar theology. But over time, politics were introduced into it, and there was a power struggle, obviously, with Rutherford, and that's when it became more about control, more about keeping members, more about making people listen to you. I mean, obviously, it wasn't just then. Obviously, it's kind of an ongoing process, and they've found new ways to get to people over time. And I would agree that I don't necessarily think that at least most of them are purposefully trying to deceive people and con people. But at the same time, it is difficult for me to imagine the amount of cognitive dissonance that it takes for a governing body member to go and spend hundreds of dollars on expensive alcohol and then go on a broadcast and tell people to donate to the worldwide work. Like,
it's crooked.
How do you do that and not think this might be dishonest? Like, you have, I think that he has to at least be aware that is shady as hell. Like,
yeah,
there's no way around that one, even if he does genuinely believe.
He could literally just be thinking he's in such a special position that it's okay.
yeah.
You know, I'm a special person. I'm unique, and so it's okay for me. You know,
which I think is what a lot of elders do, don't they? I mean,
yeah.
I think we've all been there, even as JWs, where we've done stuff that we know we oughtn't do, or that we know could single us out for annihilation at Armageddon. But we make excuses for ourselves, and we think, well, I'm doing my best in these other areas. I'm sure Jehovah's going to let me off on this one.
Outside. Yeah.
Yeah. So if if elders and even ordinary JWs are doing that, you can only imagine the extent to which governing body members are doing it, given how narcissistic they are and how they believe that they are something special and they've been singled out to be God's spokespersons, So I can imagine them making a lot of excuses for themselves.
Yeah. And speaking of narcissism, I can't, I know that they think of themselves as humble men, but it's so obvious that they're not. It's so obvious that they recognize where they are. Like, my fiance and I were talking the other day, and he's a musician. He goes to bars and does a couple of hours of singing and guitar and stuff like that. And he's kind of at a point where he's like, yeah, I'm good. People tell me all the time that they can't believe how great I am. And I don't mean that in a way that's like, I don't mean that in a way that I think that I'm amazing, but I know that I'm good. Like, if they at least acknowledged, they know that they're in a high position and that people do, that they do have people's adoration, that would be one thing. But they're just like, oh, little old me, I still go to doors sometimes. I'm just a regular old witness.
Incredibly
and they're clearly not.
Yeah. They sort of do acknowledge it, but it's in a very slimy way. Like, Stephen Lett does this. I was commenting on it in my Friday rebuttal video for the convention. He uses, I think the phrase I've fallen on is kind of vanity humor, but there's actually a more precise phrase for it. It's when you make a joke that is really intended to draw attention to how amazing you are and how popular you are. And Stephen Lett does this at the start of one of his talks, where he's joking about the fact that his audience are essentially guinea pigs, because he is due to be delivering this same talk to loads of other conventions, and this is the first time he's ever done it. So he's joking about it, but and he's getting loads of laughs from the audience. But what he's really doing is saying to the audience, I'm a big deal. I travel a lot. I get to give this talk at multiple conventions. Am I not great? And so they do it, but it's in a very kind of unappealing, frankly vain way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just so you know, I am planning on going to all 3 days of the convention, so no spoilers.
Oh, right. Really?
Gosh, you're braver than I am. Yeah.
I was originally just, last year I went because my mother asked me to, and now I've told my mother pretty bluntly, hey, I'm never going to be a Jehovah's Witness again, and she didn't invite me to the memorial this year, so I'm assuming she's not going to invite me to the convention either, but I'm going to show up anyway. Because now I want to know what shenanigans they're getting up to. I want to sit in the same chair that I used to sit in and hear the same or a new spin on the outrageous things that they say with new ears. I don't just want to see snippets. Well, I do, but I really want to sit there and take in the whole thing like a Jehovah's Witness. Like everybody else.
You're talking me into it over here right now.
I predict that will be difficult for you. I admire your optimism, but I think after the first, I'm going to say half an hour, you'll be like, oh my God, what have I let myself in for here?
I recorded about an hour or so, or maybe 50 minutes of a talk they did from last year's convention, and just sitting through that one talk, by the end of it, I was out. I could not hold myself there anymore. It was that bad. You have a whole different, you're listening to it in a whole different way. And then you're realizing you're sitting there in the middle of all these people that are completely brainwashed and they're lapping it up. And then you realize, oh, I'm sitting in between my family as well. And they don't realize that I'm now looking at it from another point of view. So it was really heavy.
Oh, man.
I'm probably not going to be sitting with my family unless they unless they do save seats for me. They did last year, but because they invited me. But I highly, like I said, I highly doubt they're going to invite me this year.
But you're going to be aware that they're there in the audience with you, at least, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true. And this is and I've been in the same like district, region, whatever they call it, for pretty much my entire life. So a lot of the people in that room are going to know me, and I know them. They've known me my whole life. So yeah, I know
think they'll talk to you?
Hmm?
Do you think any will talk to you? How many of your friends, your old friends, you think will talk to you?
None. I mean, maybe under different circumstances they would. I don't know, but definitely not in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'm trying to figure out when my convention takes place. I can't find it. Do you know when yours is?
I already got the time off of work for it. I think it's end of July or August.
I hope mine didn't already pass. That would be disappointing. You've actually talked me into it. If I can make it, then I'm going to mine.
Oh gosh.
I'll bring my Rebel T6i camera and set it up and film the whole thing and tear it apart after. That'd be cool.
I'm probably not going to film, but I'm going to take notes on the talk. Like,
there you go.
Like, I'll probably do some bite model comparisons if I can. We should work together on that. If you do end up going to the convention too, we should do something together on that.
Okay, I'm down. That sounds.
You realize you can watch the entire convention from the comforts of your own home if you have the links, which I have.
Yes, but and this is just petty of me, but I also kind of want to go to the convention and let everybody see me with a shaved head.
Yeah,
that's a fair point, though, Lloyd. There will be people that I know there, and honestly, it's not.
You want to gauge their reaction. You want to see what effects it's having on the audience, I assume.
Mm-hmm. I do want to see how other people, like, if they say something batshit crazy and I look around and everybody's nodding their head, that's part of the experience to me, you know?
Yeah.
It's not going to be fun. Let me ask you this, all of you guys. What do you guys think would happen if, say, I walk up to a Jehovah's Witness on the street, street cart witnessing, and I'm just chatting it up, and then I tell them I'm an apostate, and then I explain that, I'm deeply invested in Jehovah's Witness or ex-Jehovah's Witness activism. That do you think that they would react?
I think the conversation would stop very soon afterwards, if not immediately.
Do you think that they? I am under the suspicion that they may physically turn around and face the other direction.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's happened.
Yeah. Of course, I don't want to harass anybody or anything. So
I think, but you don't need to do that, do you? I think that my approach is to say, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
Both of which are true. And the fact that I have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses gives me an excuse for letting on that I know certain things without them saying, well, how do you know that? If I've immediately told them at the beginning I have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses, then I'm excusing all of the things that I say that let on that I know about them. But I honestly recommend, as I know you do, Owen, street epistemology as the way of kind of engaging with people in that situation, because I think a lot can be achieved simply by asking questions and letting them express in their own words how batshit crazy their beliefs are. And you can make them do that just by steering the conversation with a few questions and hopefully just plant a seed that way.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that. The best way is to keep the guard down. That's really the goal, is keep that guard from going up, because the moment it goes up, the conversation's over. They view you as an enemy and you're not making any more progress, period. So just try to be non-confrontational and draw it out of them nice and slow. So yeah, 100% with you on that one.
I actually have a little bit of a story about this. When I was in high school, I started dating this guy, and I wasn't supposed to, obviously. It was a secret.
Shame on you.
Yes, shame on me. Naughty Jehovah's Witness girl. But he was an atheist, and he actually did his research, like, right up front. Because let me say this, it was a rebound relationship, So I was emotionally invested very quickly, like way more than I should have been for as long as we'd been talking. But we had briefly discussed a bunch of things, and among which were like, hey, I'm a very religious person and you're not religious at all, and I don't know, if we ever had kids, how would we even handle a situation like that? But so he did some research though on Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think that he went to JW Facts, and he was just kind of like, so I've been reading some stuff, and I'm like, oh, the internet lies about us. It's just go to jw.org. And then he ended up giving me this entire, like, he wrote me a letter basically explaining to me that I was in a dangerous cult, and that I needed to and that he saw that I was a smart and logical and reasonable person, and he couldn't understand why I believed this, and that he wanted to help me get out of it.
And he wasn't put off by the fact that you were talking about kids already with him.
No, we were both way too invested, because this was a week-long relationship. The whole thing was a week long. Yeah, it was crazy. We were both, crazy kids. But it was a situation where, like, he was clearly doing this with the best of intentions, and I just immediately shut it down. I didn't hear a word of it, except that I saw basically that he called my religion a cult, and then I was like, well, you're wrong. And I called him some names, and actually the funny thing is, years later I contacted him and I was like, hey, you were totally right. Thank you for trying to wake me up. I appreciate the effort you went through, and I'm sorry that it severed our relationship at the time, because you were obviously just trying to help me, and I understand that now because I came to the same conclusion that you did eventually. But yeah. I've never had a situation where anybody, even like the clearly most well-intentioned person, tried to tell me anything as a Jehovah's Witness that was contrary to what I already believed about the religion. It was just an immediate shutdown.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is it? You there? Did we lose you? Well, anyway, I was going to say, I remember there were issues. You guys can hear me, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were issues originally with my relationship, like coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses. I got into this relationship with this girl and ended up having a kid with her. And all of these issues that we had stemmed from my beliefs in Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, I wanted my kid to go to the meetings and learn about Jehovah, and I didn't want the kid to take blood transfusions and all of this other crazy stuff. Lucky for me, as time went on, I started caving on those things. Like, I guess it's not that big of a deal if she goes to meetings or not. I can teach her myself if I want to. And I don't have a blood card, so whatever, But as time went on, I started to realize, like, holy shit, what was I thinking? My daughter's life was in so much danger for the first, 5 years of her life when I still believed this. I'm just so glad that, there wasn't, a car accident and she needed a blood transfusion or something. Or there wasn't some problem with the pregnancy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because that was my experience, and it sucks.
Basically,
but we came out okay.
Don't underestimate the power of bias, and bias. We all have bias. None of us likes to be confronted with a statement that completely contradicts beliefs that we hold dear to us. So you could confront a Jehovah's Witness with kind of with like a slogan that is entirely true. So you could go up to a Jehovah's Witness and say, your religion hides pedophiles. And that statement is true, but you're confronting them with something that simply they cannot afford to be true, and they don't want to be true, and therefore it isn't true. And the only excuse they need to dismiss that statement is, well, apostates are liars, and here they are lying, And to make it even worse, they're trying to accuse my religion of hiding pedophiles, which clearly it would never do. So yeah, you really, and I think your friend learnt the hard way about using the cult word. I use the word cult, but I don't think I'd use it when speaking to a believing Jehovah's Witness. And the same goes for what facts I would choose to present to a Jehovah's Witness. In fact, I don't think I'd want to present any facts. I just want to present them with questions and let them like draw their own conclusions.
Yes. Socratic reasoning kind of thing. I definitely think that's the best way to do it. Because then you aren't the one making accusations or anything. Like, leave facts completely out of the equation because they don't matter. Even if the facts were 100% against them, which many of them are, doesn't matter. That's not their, they don't believe for the sake of the facts, really. Like, if you boil it down and ask them, if we knew for a fact that this thing wasn't true or the Bible was tampered with or whatever other thing, people would say, well, I'd still believe. It's really not
still the
about
best
that.
way of life for me, they'd say.
Yes,
so,
exactly. Yeah. It all boils down to faith in the end, and that's what you want to get to, and you want them to get there themselves. So that's really the best. That's the key to it, I think.
But we've digressed from the governing body. We need to bring it back to
right?
The governing body.
By the way, I see. I love your pictures in the background. I think I talked to you about these the other day, but those pictures are really, really fantastic. What are those? Exactly?
So we have here Stephen Lett, old rubber face. We've got Tony Morris in a compromising situation inside Bottle King. This one isn't actually a governing body member. He's just the bunker elder from the bunker videos, because that's what I named. And that's Gary Bro, who isn't a governing body member, but he was in Pillowgate.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that from Pillowgate?
Yeah, because this is the Pillowgate wall. I specifically chose this wall cladding to imitate Pillowgate.
Oh, is that what it was? That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Basically, I have way too much time on my hands, as you can probably tell. So, yeah.
I love it, man. That's so awesome.
I had enough time on my hands to design something like that for my background.
I know. That's great. But, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, when you called Stephen Lett old rubber face, that reminded me of something really funny, and I'm going to try to screen share this real quick. Let me see if I can get this to work. My fiance was telling me how Stephen Lett's face reminds him of, hold on, let me get this up. Reminds him of a snake unhinging its jaw to swallow something bigger than it is.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That was a pretty good face, right? Comparison, because he says his face always looks like it's about to fall off when he's talking.
Yeah. We warmly welcome you, dear brothers, to another episode of JW Broadcasting.
Oh my God, that was an American accent you just imitated. That was like, oh God, I'm so glad we have that on recording. That is awesome.
My fiance has a great Stephen Lett impression. He even does the pointing like this. You know how he does that all the time while he's talking.
He does that. Yeah.
The dude is a creep. Like, all right, let me ask you guys this. Do you think that he's faking that? Like, some public people kind of have
like a persona?
Faked inflections and so, yeah, like a public persona. Like, to some extent, I think that I do too a little bit. Like, my voice goes up a little bit and things like that, and I move my hands around. Do you think that what he's doing there is a public persona? Do you think that's what he does when he's in the comfort of his own home with his wife and kids?
Well, I hope it's not. Poor wife and kids.
I'm having really weird mental visions now of Stephen Lett with his wife.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, just for comedy's sake, I hope so now.
Sorry, I just need some time.
Make for a hell of a show.
I need to kind of gather my thoughts. That's quite disturbing. So yeah, I think that it is his kind of public persona. However, and I would say as well, I've seen a video of him giving like a closed door speech to Bethelites. So this is not like a convention or anything. This is basically speaking to his colleagues. He's giving, like, it's a leaked video where he's talking to people who are in the video department. They have this massive studio where they do all the videos, and he tones it down a little bit, which is interesting. He's still speaking in what we would consider to be kind of an over-the-top way, but it's at least a little bit dialed down. It's no longer on 10, it's maybe on 7, you know? So I can only imagine that if you speak to him one-on-one, maybe the 7 goes down to 5 or 4, you know? So I think that is his way of talking, but how extreme it is depends on the situation, if that makes sense.
Well, you got to give him this. He grabs your attention with it. And though it's easy to make fun of him, you don't forget it. So that there is that. I mean, he has that going for him. I don't know.
Yeah. But he doesn't come off in a way that is like
charismatic.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's interesting and it's attention catching, but it's like, okay.
It feels plastic almost.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's like children's television, you know? It's like his whole delivery style, and this is true to a degree of most of the speakers and most of the content on JW Broadcasting, but his style is overly simplistic, and added to an overly simplistic dialogue or script, it's stultifying to watch. And I only watch the stuff because it's kind of my job now to do rebuttals to it. But it's actually quite painful to watch the raw kind of unedited material.
Like for the JW Broadcasting stuff, you mean?
Yeah.
It was painful enough to watch as a Jehovah's Witness. But those were my best family worship nights where we were like, okay, we're going to watch broadcasting. Because I was like, okay, cool.
Right? And you watch your phone and stuff?
I was literally talking to my boyfriend during... that was what I would be doing. I'd be talking to my boyfriend and my girlfriend like, hey, what are you guys doing? I'm in this.
That's fascinating. I don't understand the culture behind it because it wasn't around when I was a witness.
Yeah, so well, this was something my family did before, was that sometimes for family worship we would watch one of the videos, but obviously there weren't that many videos before. But when JW Broadcasting was introduced, at least one family worship every month, usually the first one of the month, would be all of us sitting down and watching the broadcast. And at the end, we would just discuss, you know, what our favorite parts were, what we learned. But that required minimal attention, paying attention to just pick out something and be like, I liked this, you know, I liked that part where that sister said the thing. It was,
Did you find any of it persuasive?
Some of the talks, if I felt like it applied to me, then I was listening more, obviously, but otherwise it wasn't like,
That's awesome.
I guess basically no. Like it would make me think about. It was usually something I already knew I was supposed to be doing, and then I'd be like, I really should do that, and that's pretty much the only thing that I'd come away with if I was like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to do that. They reminded me, and that would be it.
I can imagine I would have found the testimonies persuasive, or at least some of the testimonies persuasive, especially when it's kind of on an emotional issue and you see them getting all emotional. That's the big thing on JW Broadcasting, where they have people either crying or almost crying on camera.
Do you guys remember the one with the little girl that was
exactly
dying?
Felicity Sneesby, which was a very kind of exploitative way that they kind of took her story. It's a little girl who actually ended up dying not long after featuring on the broadcast. Her family had to transport her from Australia, where she was born, to a hospital in America, a specialist hospital, due to her having multiple health issues, for which it seems clear, reading between the lines, that she otherwise would have required blood transfusions, but they took her to a hospital that actually specializes in non-blood treatment. And that it was talking all about how they'd received great hospitality when traveling to America and that kind of thing. But ultimately, they were exploiting a very poorly girl and her condition as a recruitment tool, as a means of talking about how wonderful the organization is. And I know that now because I'm on the outside, but I can imagine if I'd have been on the inside, the testimonies would have kept my attention possibly, and they're the things that because I've always related to human stories, which is why I do interviews now. Human stories are the most compelling thing for me, and I would have probably zoned out during most of the actual speeches and just focused purely on the testimonies, probably.
Yeah, that's kind of their signature, isn't it? To do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was very much mostly the case for us. Almost never was anybody's favorite part of the broadcast the actual talks. Most of the time it was, personal testimonies and experiences and stuff like that. And sometimes, but very rarely, I think, it would be those like made-up video scenarios.
Dramatizations, yeah.
Yeah, the dramatizations. Very rarely, because they were often unrealistic. I mean, I think I don't need to say any more than that. That they're really unrealistic.
They're kind of exaggerated and overblown and
terrible acting.
Oh my God, yes, that's their signature too, if you think about it. But I was kind of on the outside of this. I don't know if you guys. Let me date myself here in the religion. I'll tell you what I remember last when I was just leaving. They still had. I remember my parents owned the two movies on VHS tape, The Purple Triangle and Stand Firm. We owned those. And I remember at the conventions, they weren't doing video. They were just doing dramas. And it was like this big honor to be involved in the drama. Do you remember the drama?
They were the one thing I actually, I don't think I enjoyed them. It wasn't but they were my favorite part of the conventions because everything else was so goddamn boring.
Yeah, it was a break.
One bit of play, I have to mute, guys. Sorry.
I was actually in a drama. I was in one of the last ones that they did. It was
really?
Yeah, it was the Esther one, I think.
That's awesome. Well, kind of, not really.
Who did you play?
I played a servant. The casting list said she was supposed to be Ethiopian, and apparently they didn't know anybody else who was black, so they were like, let's get Rachel. And it was a blast, and the whole cast got so close. And you know what? To this day, I'm still proud of what we did, because the actor who was playing Haman was a miserable actor, and the only reason he was chosen for that part was because there was a part in the drama where he was supposed to touch Esther. So the person who played Haman had to be related to her. So he was like her father-in-law or something in real life. And he was just a miserable actor. He was not even, it wasn't that he wasn't trying, but he just didn't know how to act. And by the end of it, he literally had the audience rolling laughing because of the way that he was just being so out there and over the top, and really, it was great. It was a wonderful experience. It was probably one of the best Jehovah's Witness related experiences that I had. But now
they don't do those anymore, do they?
Yeah, they don't. And now whenever I see any of those people, I've run into some of the people that I was in the drama with out in public after I got disfellowshipped and did not talk.
That sucks. Yeah, that happens. I was never involved in a drama, but I knew that it was a huge, I was partially. It was a huge honor to be involved in the dramas, but I know that my mom would sew curtains and, make clothing and stuff for them. And
would she make fake beards?
She didn't. She never made the fake beards. That would be. I wonder who does. Do they buy the fake beards? I wonder.
I would love to see. I want to have a photo of the fake beard section of the prop department in the audio video services at Bethel. That would just be so hilarious to see all those fake beards in a row. Brilliant.
That would be awesome.
The tailors that we had for our drama were extremely skilled. They literally just looked at the pictures in the publications. I think it was of the Imitate Their Faith book, because they had a lot of illustrations of Esther. They literally just looked at those and pretty much replicated the exact things that they were wearing for actors. And I was extremely impressed by their work. It was great.
Yeah. I also liked the drama section because it was like a huge break from the boringness. But I also liked the baptism section because that was another break from the boringness. Like you stand up and you're clapping and moving around a little bit and stuff, you know. And somebody told me like shortly after I got baptized or something, you're not supposed to give gifts for people who get baptized because this may or may not be true. I don't know if it's doctrine. This is just what some Jehovah's Witness told me at the time, or maybe told my parents or something. You're not supposed to give gifts because it's something that they're supposed to be doing anyways. So you're not supposed to be praising it when somebody does something right. You're supposed to be chastising when they do it wrong or some other thing. I don't know.
My friend got me that poster right behind me, that Star Trek poster over there,
right,
as a baptism gift.
My parents got me a briefcase for baptism, so I still have it somewhere.
My mom just got my name inscribed on my Bible and the
Mine
date
too.
of my baptism.
Yeah, that's funny, right? All Jehovah's Witnesses do similar things.
Jehovah's Witness parents.
What did you get for your baptism, Lloyd? Anything? I gotta head out in a second, by the way.
I got a deluxe New World Translation. It didn't have my name inscribed. It just had a nice message in it from my mum. So yeah, that was my gift. Yeah,
that's something. Do you still have it?
I do. Yeah, I have it somewhere. Yeah, I actually replicated the message inside in the Reluctant Apostate because it was.
I remember that.
Yeah, because it was quite touching how she had these ideas of who I would be and what I should strive for that she wrote down in the book, and I think it was based on a Bible verse, and I revisited those words in my final letter to her towards the end. I forget exactly how I did it, but she was basically talking about how I needed to stay awake, stand firm, and grow mighty. And
I remember that song.
And so I said, I feel I've done those things, maybe not in the way that you expected me to at the time, but I feel I have awakened and stood firm against an oppressive, bullying organization and grown mighty in doing so. So,
well said. I can agree to that. That's awesome.
Okay, I know Telltale has to go, so I want to wrap this up. Does anybody have any final remarks?
Just that we've been thin on governing body jokes, but mostly that's because the governing body are a joke, and are entirely unworthy of any kind of devotion or loyalty or even respect. These are men who lie to people, lie to children, and preside over an abusive organization that ruins lives. So they deserve zero respect and maximum mockery. And if you're a Jehovah's Witness who's watching this, please take to heart some of the things we've.
Oh.
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Wait, you froze.
Sorry, am I back now?
Yep.
You're back. Yeah, we caught the very end of that. Just say the last sentence, I think.
I was just giving the date for Armageddon, and you've missed it now. But no, just that they really are unworthy of respect and adoration. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just men who claim to be God's mouthpiece, but then say they're not inspired, because that would be presumptuous. But basically, what is worth listening to from them if they can't even get straight whether or not they are in fact in being led by Holy Spirit are God's mouthpiece? If they can't even get that straight, what do they have to say that is worth listening to the point that you base your whole life around everything they say?
Yeah.
Well said.
They should give up their authority.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, well, that was fun. This was fun. And yeah, we didn't stay on topic very well. And I don't care. I think that, I mean, what the governing body does trickles down to everything else about Jehovah's Witness life. So, it's still a criticism of them to a degree. So.
Sure. No, I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope to have you on my channel soon if you're up for it. That'd be really nice.
I'm totally up for it.
That's cool.
Let me know when.
Okay, brilliant.
And thank you guys so much for coming on my channel and having this discussion. I think this has been really fun and really productive. And I do hope some Jehovah's Witnesses see this and kind of see that we're like normal folks and that we're not crazy raving about, you know,
mentally diseased.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mentally diseased. No.
Well, he couldn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much for coming. And I hope you guys enjoyed this too.
I absolutely did.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.